Hey there, welcome back to my channel, Book Demystified. You know what's absolutely wild? Right now, as you're watching this video, there's probably a millionaire living within a few blocks of you. Maybe they're your neighbor who drives that 10-year-old Honda Civic, or the person you see at the grocery store clipping coupons every Sunday morning. They might even be sitting next to you at your local diner ordering the same turkey sandwich they've been getting for years. This isn't some fairy tale I'm making up. This is the reality that Thomas Stanley and William Danko discovered when they spent over 20 years studying America's wealthy. And let me tell you, what they found will completely shatter everything you think you know about rich people. Picture this. You're walking through your neighborhood, and you see two houses. One is a brand new BMW in the driveway, perfectly manicured lawn, and you can practically smell the money from the street. The other house? It's got a 15-year-old Toyota Camry parked outside. The paint's a little faded, and honestly, it looks pretty average. Which family do you think is actually wealthy? If you're like most Americans, you'd pick the first house, and you'd be dead wrong. The authors of the Millionaire Next Door interviewed over 500 millionaires across America, and here's what blew their minds. Most millionaires don't look like millionaires at all. They're not driving around in Ferraris or wearing $1,000 suits. They're not living in mansions or throwing lavish parties. In fact, they're so ordinary, so normal, that they're completely invisible to the rest of us. Now, before we dive deep into these surprising habits, let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. Are you actually building wealth, or are you just looking wealthy? Because there's a massive difference, and most Americans are stuck in the trap of appearing rich while staying broke. Stanley and Danko didn't just interview a few rich people and call it a day. They conducted the most comprehensive study of American millionaires ever undertaken. They sent surveys to people living in upscale neighborhoods across the country. They interviewed business owners, doctors, lawyers, and people from every profession you can imagine. And what they discovered was so surprising that it fundamentally changed how we understand wealth in America. Here's the first shocking truth. Most millionaires in America are first-generation wealthy. They didn't inherit their money from mommy and daddy. They didn't win the lottery. They didn't create the next Facebook or Google. They're regular people who did extraordinary things with ordinary incomes over time. Think about your own family for a second. Maybe your grandparents came to America with nothing but hope and determination. Maybe your parents worked blue-collar jobs their entire lives. The millionaires Stanley studied aren't that different from your family's story. The difference is in the choices they made every single day. Let me tell you about one of the families they interviewed. The husband was a welder, and his wife worked part-time at a local school. They lived in a modest 3-bedroom house in a middle-class neighborhood in Ohio. Their combined income was around $60,000 a year. Nothing spectacular, right? But by the time they were in their 60s, they had accumulated over $1.2 million in wealth. How is that even possible? Well, that's exactly what we're going to uncover today. But first, let me tell you what these real millionaires don't do, because it's going to challenge everything you've been taught about success. They don't lease luxury cars. In fact, the most popular car among millionaires is a Toyota, followed by Honda and Ford. They don't buy designer clothes. Most millionaires shop at regular department stores like Sears and JCPenney. They don't eat at expensive restaurants every night. They cook at home more often than the average American family. Now, you might be thinking, what's the point of being rich if you can't enjoy it? But here's where you're missing the entire point. These people aren't cheap. They're not miserable. They're not depriving themselves of happiness. They've just figured out something that most Americans never learn: the difference between looking rich and being rich. Let me paint a picture that'll make this crystal clear. Imagine two families living on the same street in suburbia, the Johnsons and the Smiths. Both families have household incomes of about $80,000 a year. Pretty typical for middle-class America, right? The Johnsons drive brand new cars. They lease a BMW and a Mercedes. Their monthly car payments total about $1,200. They live in a beautiful house with a mortgage that takes up 35% of their income. They wear designer clothes, take expensive vacations twice a year, and their kids go to private schools. They eat out 4 times a week at nice restaurants. From the outside, the Johnsons look incredibly successful.
The Smiths, on the other hand, drive cars that are 7 and 10 years old. They paid cash for both of them. Their house is modest, and they paid it off in 15 years instead of 30. They shop at Target and Walmart. They take 1 vacation a year, usually driving to a national park or visiting family. Their kids go to public school. They eat out maybe once a week, and it's usually at Applebee's or Chili's. Here's the kicker. After 20 years, the Johnsons have a net worth of negative $50,000. They owe more than they own. The Smiths have a net worth of over $400,000. Same income, completely different outcomes. This is the central thesis of the Millionaire Next Door. Wealth isn't about what you earn, it's about what you keep. And what you keep depends entirely on how you spend and invest your money. Stanley and Danko created a simple formula to determine if someone is wealthy, average, or poor. They call it the wealth equation. Take your age, multiply it by your annual household income, then divide by 10. That's what your net worth should be if you're an average accumulator of wealth. So if you're 30 years old and make $50,000 a year, your net worth should be around $150,000. If it's significantly higher, you're a prodigious accumulator of wealth. If it's significantly lower, you're an under-accumulator of wealth. Now, don't panic if you're an under-accumulator. Most Americans are. The good news is that you can change this starting today. The habits we're about to discuss aren't complicated. They don't require special skills or knowledge. They just require discipline and a shift in mindset. Hey, if you're enjoying our free book summaries and want to support what we do, there are a few easy ways to help. You can subscribe to the channel, become a member, or grab the book using our affiliate link in the description. And if you'd like to go a step further, you can also leave a tip via PayPal. The link's below. Every bit of support helps us keep creating valuable content for you. The first surprising habit of real millionaires is that they live well below their means. This isn't just about being frugal or cheap, it's about making conscious choices about where to spend money and where to save it. Real millionaires understand that every dollar they don't spend today is a dollar that can grow into much more tomorrow. Let me tell you about Mary, a millionaire the authors interviewed. Mary worked as a teacher for 35 years. She never made more than $45,000 in any single year. But by the time she retired, she had accumulated over $1.8 million. How did she do it? She lived on $30,000 a year and invested the rest. Mary didn't feel deprived. She had a nice apartment, reliable transportation, and enough money for her hobbies. She just understood that temporary sacrifices lead to long-term freedom. While her colleagues were buying new cars and taking expensive vacations, Mary was building wealth that would eventually give her more freedom than any of them could imagine. This brings us to the second surprising habit. Real millionaires are phenomenal budgeters. They know exactly where every dollar goes. They track their expenses not because they're obsessed with money, but because they understand that you can't manage what you don't measure. Now, I know what you're thinking. Budgeting sounds boring. It sounds restrictive. But here's what the millionaires know that you don't. Budgeting isn't about restricting your life, it's about directing your life. When you have a budget, you're telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. The average American family has no idea how much they spend on restaurants, entertainment, or even groceries. They live paycheck to paycheck not because they don't earn enough, but because they don't plan enough. Millionaires are different. They plan their spending just like they plan their careers. Here's a practical example that'll blow your mind. Let's say you spend $200 a month on restaurants and entertainment. That's pretty typical for most Americans. It's only about $50 a week, right? No big deal. But if you invested that $200 every month in an index fund earning 8% annually, you'd have over $525,000 after 30 years. That's the power of compound interest, and it's why millionaires are so careful about their spending. They understand that every dollar spent today is multiple dollars not earned tomorrow. The third surprising habit is that millionaires ignore the Joneses. They don't care what their neighbors drive, where, or where they vacation. They're playing a completely different game. While most Americans are trying to keep up with appearances, millionaires are building actual wealth.
This is probably the hardest habit for most people to adopt because we're social creatures. We want to fit in. We want to be accepted. We want people to think we're successful. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Caring about what others think of your lifestyle is one of the fastest ways to stay broke. I remember reading about a study that found that for every 10% increase in a person's income, their spending increases by 13%. Think about that for a second. People actually spend more than their income increases. Why? Because they feel like they need to upgrade their lifestyle to match their new income level. Millionaires don't fall into this trap. When they get a raise, they save and invest the extra money. When they get a bonus, it goes into their investment account. They understand that lifestyle inflation is the enemy of wealth building. The fourth habit is that millionaires are incredibly focused on building assets, not accumulating stuff. They understand the difference between an asset and a liability. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. Your house isn't an asset if you're living in it. It's a liability because it costs you money every month in mortgage payments, insurance, taxes, and maintenance. Your car isn't an asset. It's a depreciating liability that loses value every year. Your furniture, clothes, and gadgets aren't assets. They're just stuff that costs money. Real assets are things like stocks, bonds, real estate investments, and businesses. These are things that generate income or appreciate in value over time. Millionaires focus on acquiring assets, while most Americans focus on accumulating liabilities. Here's what's fascinating. The average American household has more money tied up in their car than in their investment account. Think about that. People will spend $40,000 on a car that'll be worth $15,000 in 5 years, but they won't invest even $10,000 in an index fund that could be worth $30,000 in 10 years. The fifth surprising habit is that millionaires are extremely patient. They understand that wealth building is a marathon, not a sprint. They don't expect to get rich overnight. They don't chase get-rich-quick schemes. They don't try to time the stock market. They just consistently save and invest over long periods of time. This patience extends to every aspect of their financial lives. They drive cars until they're completely worn out. They live in houses for decades. They buy quality items that last, instead of cheap items that need to be replaced frequently. They understand that slow and steady wins the race. Let me tell you about Robert, another millionaire from the study. Robert started investing $500 a month when he was 25 years old. He never increased the amount, never tried to pick individual stocks, and never panicked during market downturns. He just consistently invested in a diversified portfolio of index funds. By the time he was 65 years old, he had over $2.3 million. Robert wasn't a genius, he didn't have insider information, he didn't work on Wall Street, he was just consistent and patient. He understood that time is the most powerful force in wealth building. The sixth habit is that millionaires are incredibly self-reliant. They don't depend on others for their financial security. They don't expect the government to take care of them in retirement. They don't expect their children to support them. They take complete responsibility for their financial future. This self-reliance starts with their careers. Most millionaires are either business owners or they have high-paying professions. But here's the key. They didn't stumble into success. They deliberately chose careers that would give them the income potential to build wealth. If you're currently in a low-paying job, you have two choices. Either dramatically reduce your expenses or dramatically increase your income, preferably both. The millionaires in the study understood this early in their careers and made tough decisions to position themselves for financial success. The seventh habit is that millionaires are fantastic at managing risk. They don't take unnecessary risks with their money, but they also don't let fear prevent them from investing. They understand that not investing is actually riskier than investing, because inflation will erode their purchasing power over time. They typically have 6 to 12 months of expenses saved in an emergency fund. They have adequate insurance coverage. They diversify their investments. They don't put all their eggs in one basket. They understand that protecting their wealth is just as important as building it.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Millionaires are much more likely to take calculated risks in their careers. They're more likely to start businesses, change jobs for better opportunities, or invest in their education and skills. They understand that the biggest risk is not taking any risks at all. The eighth surprising habit is that millionaires are lifelong learners. They constantly invest in their knowledge and skills. They read books, attend seminars, and surround themselves with other successful people. They understand that their earning potential is directly related to their learning potential. The average American watches over 4 hours of television per day. The average millionaire watches less than 1 hour. Instead, they're reading, learning, planning, and working on their financial future. They understand that knowledge is the ultimate asset because it can never be taken away from you. Now, let's talk about something that might make you uncomfortable: the role of inheritance in wealth building. Most people assume that millionaires inherited their money or got help from wealthy parents. The research shows the exact opposite. Most millionaires are first-generation wealthy. They didn't receive significant financial help from their parents. In fact, many of them came from modest backgrounds. They built their wealth through their own efforts, discipline, and smart financial decisions. But here's the really surprising part. Millionaires are much less likely to give their children financial assistance as adults. They understand that giving their kids money doesn't help them develop the skills and habits necessary to build wealth themselves. This doesn't mean they don't love their children. It means they love them enough to let them struggle and learn. They know that financial struggle builds character and teaches valuable lessons that no amount of money can buy. The ninth habit is that millionaires are incredibly goal-oriented. They set specific financial goals and create detailed plans to achieve them. They don't just hope to be wealthy someday. They have specific target dates and dollar amounts. They track their progress regularly and adjust their strategies as needed. Most Americans have vague financial goals like, "I want to be comfortable," or "I want to retire someday." Millionaires have specific goals like, "I want to have $1 million invested by age 55," or "I want to have enough passive income to cover my expenses by age 60." The difference between a goal and a wish is specificity and a plan. Millionaires don't wish to be wealthy, they plan to be wealthy. The 10th habit is that millionaires understand the power of compound interest. Albert Einstein supposedly called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. Whether he actually said that or not, the sentiment is absolutely true. Compound interest is the reason why starting early is so much more powerful than starting late. Let me give you an example that'll blow your mind. Sarah starts investing $300 a month when she's 25. She invests for 10 years and then stops. Her total investment is $36,000. Tom starts investing $300 a month when he's 35 and continues until he's 65. His total investment is $108,000. Assuming both earn 8% annually, Sarah will have more money at age 65 despite investing less than a third of what Tom invested. That's the power of compound interest and why millionaires start investing early. But here's the really important part. It's never too late to start. Even if you're 40 or 50 years old, you can still build significant wealth if you start now and stay consistent. The key is to start as soon as possible and let time work in your favor. The 11th surprising habit is that millionaires are incredibly disciplined about their spending priorities. They'll spend money on things that matter and cut ruthlessly on things that don't. They might drive a 10-year-old car, but invest thousands of dollars in their education. They might live in a modest house but max out their retirement contributions. This isn't about being cheap, it's about being intentional. They understand that money is a tool, and tools should be used efficiently. They don't waste money on things that don't add value to their lives or help them reach their goals. For example, many millionaires are extremely generous with charity. They understand that giving back is important, and they budget for it just like any other expense. But they won't spend money on designer clothes or expensive cars because those things don't align with their values or goals. The 12th habit is that millionaires are fantastic at delayed gratification. They understand that sacrificing today leads to abundance tomorrow. They'll choose to invest money instead of spending it on immediate pleasures. They'll work extra hours to build their business instead of watching television. They'll study instead of partying. This isn't about being miserable. It's about understanding that every choice has consequences. When you choose to spend money today, you're choosing not to have more money tomorrow. When you choose to watch TV instead of learning, you're choosing to limit your future earning potential. Millionaires have mastered the art of delayed gratification because they understand that temporary discomfort leads to long-term freedom. The 13th habit is that millionaires are incredibly good at managing their time. They understand that time is their most valuable asset because it's the only thing they can't get more of. They're very intentional about how they spend their time, and they focus on activities that move them closer to their goals. They don't waste time on things that don't matter. They don't watch reality TV shows or spend hours scrolling through social media. They use their time productively to build their wealth, develop their skills, and strengthen their relationships. But here's the key. They're not networking just to get something. They're building genuine relationships based on mutual respect and shared values. They understand that the best way to receive help is to give help first. The 15th habit is that millionaires are incredibly resilient. They understand that setbacks are part of the journey. They don't let temporary failures derail their long-term plans. They learn from their mistakes, adjust their strategies, and keep moving forward. Many of the millionaires in the study had experienced significant setbacks in their careers or investments. Some had lost jobs, some had businesses fail, and some had made poor investment decisions. But they didn't let these setbacks define them. They used them as learning experiences and came back stronger. Now, let's talk about something that might surprise you. Millionaires are much more likely to be married and stay married. This isn't because wealthy people are better at relationships. It's because stable relationships provide a strong foundation for wealth building. Two people working together toward common goals can accomplish much more than two people working separately. They can share expenses, support each other through difficult times, and make better financial decisions together. Divorce is incredibly expensive and can destroy decades of wealth building. The 16th habit is that millionaires are incredibly focused on their health. They understand that their ability to earn money depends on their physical and mental health. They exercise regularly, eat well, and take care of themselves. They view healthcare as an investment, not an expense. This might seem unrelated to wealth building, but it's actually crucial. If you're not healthy, you can't work effectively. If you can't work effectively, you can't build wealth. Medical expenses can destroy your financial progress if you're not prepared. The 17th habit is that millionaires are excellent at automating their finances. They understand that willpower is limited, so they set up systems that make saving and investing automatic. They have automatic transfers to their investment accounts. They have automatic bill payments. They remove the temptation to spend money that should be saved. This is incredibly powerful because it removes the emotional component from financial decisions. You don't have to decide whether to save money each month. The decision is already made, and the system takes care of it automatically. The 18th surprising habit is that millionaires are much more likely to own businesses. About 2/3 of millionaires are business owners. This doesn't mean they're all entrepreneurs who started the next Google. Many of them own small, ordinary businesses like dry cleaners, restaurants, or consulting firms. The reason business ownership is so powerful for wealth building is that it provides multiple income streams. You can earn money from your salary, from the profits of the business, and from the appreciation of the business value. You also have much more control over your income potential. But here's the important part. Owning a business isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. Most business owners work incredibly hard, especially in the early years. They sacrifice immediate gratification for long-term wealth building. They understand that building a successful business takes time, effort, and persistence.
The 19th habit is that millionaires are incredibly good at managing their taxes. They understand that it's not what you earn that matters, it's what you keep after taxes. They work with qualified tax professionals to minimize their tax burden legally. They take advantage of tax-advantaged retirement accounts and other strategies to reduce their tax liability. This doesn't mean they're doing anything illegal or unethical, they're just being smart about their tax situation. They understand that paying unnecessary taxes is like throwing money away, and they're too disciplined to waste money unnecessarily. The 20th and final habit is that millionaires have a long-term perspective. They think in decades, not months or years. They understand that wealth building is a long-term process that requires patience, discipline, and consistency. They don't get distracted by short-term market fluctuations or economic downturns. They stay focused on their long-term goals and continue to save and invest regardless of what's happening in the economy. They understand that time is their greatest ally in wealth building. Now let's talk about how you can apply these habits to your own life. The good news is that none of these habits require special knowledge or skills. They just require discipline and a commitment to changing your behavior. Start by calculating your current net worth. List all your assets and subtract all your debts. This will give you a baseline to work from. Then use the wealth equation we discussed earlier to determine if you're on track to build wealth. If you're behind, don't panic. Start implementing these habits one at a time. Begin with creating a budget and tracking your expenses. You can't manage what you don't measure. Once you know where your money is going, you can start making adjustments. Focus on increasing your income and decreasing your expenses. Look for ways to advance in your career or develop new skills that will increase your earning potential. At the same time, eliminate unnecessary expenses and focus your spending on things that truly matter to you. Start investing as soon as possible, even if it's just $25 a month. The key is to start and be consistent. As your income increases, increase your investment contributions. Take advantage of employer matching in your retirement plan if it's available. Most importantly, change your mindset about money. Stop trying to look wealthy and start building actual wealth. Stop caring about what others think of your lifestyle and start focusing on your long-term financial goals. Remember, building wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. It requires patience, discipline, and consistency, but the rewards are incredible. Financial freedom gives you options. It gives you the ability to make choices based on what you want to do, not what you have to do. The millionaires next door aren't special. They're ordinary people who made extraordinary choices. They chose to live below their means, save consistently, invest wisely, and stay disciplined over long periods of time. They understood that temporary sacrifices lead to long-term freedom. You can make the same choices. You can develop the same habits. You can build wealth regardless of your current situation. It's not about how much you earn, it's about how much you keep and what you do with it. The most important thing to remember is that every day you delay is a day you're not building wealth. The power of compound interest means that starting today is always better than starting tomorrow. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to start. The millionaire next door could be you. The question is, are you ready to develop the habits that will get you there? Are you ready to stop looking wealthy and start building actual wealth? Are you ready to make the sacrifices today that will give you freedom tomorrow? The choice is yours. The habits are proven. The only question is whether you'll implement them. Your future self is counting on the decisions you make today. Make them count. Thanks for watching, and remember, wealth isn't about what you earn, it's about what you keep. Start keeping more, and you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish.